Hi, I'm Nick Vitellari, and welcome to Road to Reinvention 2019. I'm here with Shashank Samat of GlobalLogic. He's the CEO of GlobalLogic. And Shashank, thanks for being with us today. You're doing something very interesting. You're helping companies build new products, product engineering. Mm-hmm. But when I hear you talk about that, you're talking more about how that becomes, in some sense, a core of a new generation of company and dealing with new generations of customers. Do I have that right? It sounds pretty interesting.
That's correct. Digital transformation is not in the hands of just CIO or a chief of engineering or the CDO or a CMO. Mm-hmm. It encompasses and engulfs the entire company in the right way, because that is the way to try to rediscover or reimagine your business in the context of putting consumer in center and redrawing all the journeys. In the quest, what happens is, and that is actually a design, that is a design element of it, is just to challenge the status quo, not think outside of the 9 box, but outside of the village. That's the reason you get designers. And they start asking questions which are not regular questions about PPPs, right? Okay. And when they do that, there is a discovery process. There is no end point. That is the way the companies will be run moving forward. When Starbucks designed their platform, they never started with order and pay, right? They actually that did happen. So digital transformation journey, you actually get to several points which you feel that could be monetizable. And when we do that, and that's what design process figures it out, when you do that, then the technology arm actually make it feasible, which is a complex engineering make it happen. Data arm actually makes it much better and actually self-learning. And there's a rolling thunder, which I always say, by which you start actually checking out in the market. It's a fast-fail concept. Now, when this is happening, the rest of the organization, your supply chain, your sales, what you sell, whom you sell, how you sell, how you are going to have ecosystem going to work out. Sometimes you cross actually your traditional industry boundary and go to the next industry. That's the way you try to figure it out. And this whole thing has to come together, and this will actually make even the internal company boundaries liquid. Wow. Is no more the same CMO or the same CIO or the same CFO. You have these folks work together for the new generation company. So I always say that digital transformation for a CEO, it should always start at the top, because CEO's tenure is longer than CIO's tenure or actually CFO's tenure. And oftentimes what CEO is going to start will actually pave the way for the success for the next tenure, for the next CEO. So it should have a long-term view. That is the way to do the business. And the whole company rally around it and try to figure out what is the reimagination means. And that is the way it works out. At the end result of this is your monetization model change, your product model change, your distribution model change, your supply chain change, your partners change. And all this is made happen by the complex engineering. And that's where so GlobalLogic as a company, as a role, is no more a software service provider. Is not actually a consulting company. Is actually a partner company to create this core capability in an enterprise. Because ultimately their enterprise is becoming a software company, all said and done. And to hold their hand to get to the end state which they will become the software company themselves. It all started where technology companies getting an enterprise. And it was enterprise time to become technology companies to come back to reclaim their ground, but definitely on a different view, vision, and imagination.
Interesting, that's great. So it sounds to me there's a lot of learning in this, right? I mean, so the organization is constantly learning as it builds its next generation product. And then you said there's no endpoints really, but the endpoints sort of emerge out of this learning process?
So I think it could be called a disruption, but I like to call it learning. Mm-hmm. The reason is that every stage, typically I think most of the IT projects that happen saying that ERP project, we are going to invest so much and we get so much efficiency or whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. That is not the way digital transformation work. Most of the time you start with the skunk works, then get in the platform, then trying to figure out your own different endpoints. Each of the journey, feasibility of that can be determined by the design and engineering. The viability of that is determined by the financial models and others. Mm-hmm. So I think where each of these endpoints are reached, those micro endpoints need to be capitalized by the rest of the organization to monetize. And that's where the success happened. There are many projects actually, or many engagements which we did with many of the large companies where it was a successful failure. What it means is, I think they figured out, yes, this is a great endpoint, but they're not able to actually get to the monetization phase, so feasibility has failed, right? But that is also a learning, because that actually gives rise to something else, which ultimately get the company to the next stage. And while we are doing so, you start creating the entire technology platforms, and all your different use cases start dropping as a sandwich toaster. And ultimately, everything is connected using the data link in that. And you keep on evolving the picture of your consumer in that line. And you get to the actual nirvana at some stage, which could be much further down the line.
Well, great. Well, Shashank, thanks very much for being with us today, taking a few minutes to kind of explain this. It seems like a very dynamic model. It makes sense in a world that's moving and changing at such a dynamic rate these days. So thank you for sharing that with us.
It's a very rewarding experience.
Thank you. So that's Shashank Samat. He's the CEO of Global Logic. Thank you.